Sunday, March 30th, 2025, on an Avalon Rhine River Cruise, we depart the ship Panorama, docked at Basel, Switzerland, and take a bus ride to Lucerne. You can check out my other YouTube video of that bus ride, Avalon Rhine River Cruise Excursion Bus Ride from Basel to the base of Mount Pilatus. We take the ski lifts to the top of Mount Pilatus, which was also another great adventure that you can watch on another YouTube video of mine, Avalon Rhine River Cruise Excursion to the top of Mount Pilatus. Follow the yellow line on this Google Earth flyover. We head back down the mountain and arrive at our hotel in Lucerne, the Radisson Blu, where we meet up with our local guide who takes us on a tour of the city. In this video, we leave the hotel and head to a nearby park where our guide provides the history and an overview of Lucerne. We continue on to the city center and stop at the KKL, a futuristic 250,000 square meter convention center. After we leave the KKL, we stop at the train station Arch, which is the only remains of the original one-track train station. Our group crosses the street and our guide points out many of the historical buildings and some interesting facts on the chapel bridge and the water tower. We head inside the chapel bridge and learn its historical significance to Lucerne. This video ends at the Jesuit church, where we go inside for a short look around and exit for some final thoughts about the church.
So for our first stop, we have to cross the park over here, and it will take us to a beautiful building which is called the KKL, which is right in front of the train station. And so we will cross the street from here. You know, since it's a Sunday, it's very calm today. The shops are closed. Only a few shops and restaurants are open in the city center. So be careful when you cross, everyone. And then there's no more cars here. So, whenever I start a tour, I'd like to give you a little bit of perspective where we are exactly. We are now in Lucerne, and Lucerne, the city name is the same name as the canton of Lucerne. Now, when I say canton, you can compare that to provinces or states. We have 26 cantons in the country of Switzerland, and every region is a little bit different. We are here now in central Switzerland, and we speak Swiss German. Swiss German is a strong dialect derived from German, and people in Germany, they cannot understand us. But we can always understand them, you know, we kind of like it that way. So when you go to school, you study German, you write in German, but we talk not the same way. So it's a very strong or thick accent that we have. Then when you go to the south, then when you go to Como, you will most likely cross through the canton of Ticino. That's where you will find palm trees, pizza, espressi. We go on holidays there. This is really the south of Switzerland when we speak Italian. In the east, I used to study here, that's why we speak Romansh. That's a language derived from the Roman Empire. Very, very hard to talk to the people who still speak it. And then here in the west, where Lausanne and Geneva is, we speak French. So 4 official languages in our country, but we don't speak all these languages fluently. So we often switch to English when we talk to each other. And usually at school, the second language you learn is French, or it used to be that way. Now it's English, the second language. Now when we zoom into Lucerne and into central Switzerland, we have a lake. The lake is right behind me. It's Lake Lucerne. In English, in German, it's called Vierwaldstätter See. That's one word composed of 4 different words, and it means the 4 forest counties lake, because back in medieval times this lake was used to transport goods from the south to the north, and Lucerne really became the logistical hub of that time, and we became a prosperous city through trade. And still today, waterways plays an important role for us. We don't only use the boats that you see around for touristic purposes, we use them as public transportation. So a friend of mine, for example, every morning she takes the boat to go to work, as she works in a hotel. And yeah, it's this lake you will see later on in the Old Town is connected with a river. The river is called Reuss, and it flows upstream north. And if you'd follow that river, at some point it would flow into the Rhine River, where you've been on, right? It flows, so it's all connected right here. Yeah, you've been on Mount Pilatus this morning, right? We also have Mount Rigi, very famous here in Lucerne as well. If you look across over there, it also has an antenna on top of the mountain. It's a bit hard to see as it's a bit overcast, but we call this mountain the Queen of the Mountain. And also Queen Victoria went for a visit there a couple of times when she was here in Lucerne, same as with Pilatus. All right, now I mentioned we will go to the KKL, that's the building with the big roof, and once we stop over there I will ask you, what do you think, how big is this roof? In square meters. So Lucerne is a very artsy city, you will see, and this is connected to our national sports. Our national sport is Schwingen. You can compare it to wrestling. Okay. Yeah, and it's a very traditional way when you have to grab your opponent and try to bring them on their back. And so you will find plenty of these sculptures in the city. Now this park here in winter turns into a Christmas market. Christmas market, and then soon from now they will have pop-up stores and coffee places, chairs to sit outside, and it's usually packed in the summertime. So if you like to go to a supermarket this evening before going to bed, for example, there's one supermarket that is open at the train station. So you just walk straight where you can see the logo SBB CFF, that's our train station. So just a few meters from here, and then underground there are supermarkets open today as well up till 10 p.m. There's also a pharmacy. Yeah, a pharmacy, a market hall with fresh vegetables and fruits from the farmers nearby, Coop and Migros. These are our 2 big supermarket chains, and even some like food stands and where you can get snacks. Gift shops, yeah, there is one, but there is even a better one in the Old Town. Remind me again if I tend to forget to point out for you where the gift shop is.
Find a jacket like what they had up at the mountain. You know, it looks kind of like this.
Oh, I know which jacket you mean.
I don't know where to find it though. They didn't have a size there.
I see. Now the souvenir shop, it's like a 3-story building. They have plenty of things from Switzerland and Lucerne in particular.
Jenny, where's the best coffee around here?
Oh, I was asked where's the best coffee in Lucerne also. We are really big on coffee. We love coffee.
Oh,
our favorite is café crème. You will always find it on the menu. So it's coffee with a little bit of milk in it. Café crème. I like the coffee shop that is called Sip. Easy to remember, right? Yeah. And then also if you go to the Lion Monument this evening, just across the Lion Monument, there is the Alpen Quai. Alpen Quai. It's, they have, I think, one of the best coffees around here. They were Alpen Quai, opposite the Lion one. You can't miss it. There's always people sitting there enjoying their coffee.
Okay.
They work with the local roastery together.
Where is SIP? And is SIP?
The SIP is nearby. It's in the old town. Oh, for caffeine. So, let's stand over there so you have a better view of the entire building. Now, this is one of the newest public buildings you will find in Lucerne. Lucerne is very well known for the culture that we celebrate here when it comes to music and dancing. We just love to spend time outside as well. And this building is very symbolic for this kind of tradition that we have here. We call this the KKL, which is short for Kultur- and Kongresszentrum of Lucerne, so Culture and Congress Center. And it's a multi-purpose building because several rooms are found inside. Now, I want to explain you how it got to this building in the first place. It was built in the 1990s, so it's relatively new still. And it was an architecture competition, sort of, who could build this building. And a French guy, his name was Jean Nouvel, he won the competition and he came to Lucerne for site inspection. And he looked around and he realized that water is very important for us, also for the scenery of Lucerne. And so his first idea was to build the KKL in the shape of a cruise ship right here on the water. So that was the draft that he ended in. Now, as you can imagine, the people of Lucerne were not so happy about this first draft for several reasons. And then he said, okay, if I cannot build the cruise ship, I will bring the water inside the building. And that's what he did in the end, because we not only have this artificial lake here that sources lake water, but two water channels, one on the left, the other on the right, and they run through the entire building. And they divide the KKL into 3 tractions, and so every traction serves a different purpose. On your left, you will find the Salle Blanche. The Salle Blanche is an internationally renowned music hall for symphony orchestras, for the jazz music. We even hold cinemas there with live music. And it has become very, very known for its acoustics. It was a gentleman, Russell Johnson from New York. He was an acoustician, and he managed that no matter where you sit, it will always have the same fabulous sound inside the Salle Blanche. And usually in summertime, every night they have shows right inside there. Now in the center, there is the Lucerne Saal, that's a seminar room. Also, if the World Economic Forum could not be held in Davos, this would be the alternative. So they would come here and hold their seminars here. And the Art Museum of Lucerne is on the very right. So it's really a combination of several purposes. Now, I asked you earlier, what do you think? How big is the roof?
The front even got across the top of the whole building?
Yes, it does.
300,000 meters.
Yeah, you're actually not that far away because we say 250 square meters. Very good guess, yeah. And it's very thin towards the end. So up here, we say it's only 4 centimeters. I don't know how much that is in feet, but it's like very, very thin. And in winter time, we have to heat up the roof because of the snowfall. Otherwise, the pressure would be too heavy, yeah, on the rooftop. And like at first, there were like the people of Lucerne, they were not that happy about this building. Like, well, they thought it's too modern for the city. But now if you ask the locals, I feel everybody says no, it was a very good investment, and we are happy to have this, yeah, also beautiful square around here, right? Where everybody comes together, eats their lunch and holds celebrations. Now, there is one funny anecdote of this building. You know, at the opening ceremony in the 1990s, the mother-in-law of Jean Nouvel fell into one of the water channels. She had a beautiful dress on, and at that time there were no hand railings. So this was only installed afterwards, after that incident happened, and still up to this day I feel like just over there it's just very temporary, like they haven't really installed the fixed ones, right? Okay, so coming from the very new place, we will now focus more on the older parts of Lucerne, and we'll go all the way over there in front of the arch.
There's a big castle.
Yeah, so the building that you probably saw up in the hill, which is a white building, it's not a castle, it's a hotel. I will talk about that when yeah, it does. When we are a bit closer, I will explain to you more. So most of the tall buildings you see over there are hotels, 4-star hotels, all built in the end of the 19th century. So the Schweizerhaus was opened in 1845, the National in 1909, and up to this day. They are, the hotels of the time of the Belle Epoque, so even the interior is very classy.
So the one with the green, that's a hotel?
Yeah, it's also a hotel, Hotel Palace, which now belongs to the Mandarin group, Mandarin Oriental.
Is the casino part of a hotel or independent?
Part of the hotel, but even external visitors can go in. So you see the bus over here? These are the local buses, blue-white. So with your city card, you can use all these buses that stay within the city. And they will always come back to the city center. The main bus stop is just over here.
How long does it take to go all the way around?
That is hard to say, to do a round trip, because every bus has a different route and doesn't do like some of them, they go really outside, like almost to my parents' place and then come back. So that's probably 2.5 hours trip.
Oh, well, we don't have that long.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out.
Maybe bus number 1 or bus number 19 is a nice trip to go around.
Bus 1?
Yeah. And then to come back. Like bus number 1 will go to a train station and then do a 10-minute stop and come back again. Right. So we stay here, but I wanted to tell you a bit more about this arch. Now this arch has something to do with the building behind. The building behind is the train station of Lucerne. In fact, the 3rd train station that we have. I want to show you the 1st train station that was built in Lucerne. And when was that? Around 1845. That was the 1st train station. One has horses and 1 track connecting Lucerne to Emmenbrücke, which is now 10 minutes outside from here, but at that time it was a longer trip. And then we had a visit by the Emperor Wilhelm from Germany. He came by boat, and the locals were very afraid that he will realize that this is our train station, and they felt a little bit ashamed of this train station, let's say the least. So we decided to build a new train station, and shortly after, in 1889, this beautiful train station was finalized. Now when you look very closely, there is a resemblance with this photo and the arch, because the arch used to be the main entrance of that former train station that we had. What happened? In 1971, there was a fire during repair work on that train station, and it burned down to its ground. And the only thing that we could rescue was the archway, so the entrance of that former train station. This, like we call it in German, Torbogen, and it's very, like, even if you haven't come to Lucerne, everybody for some reason knows the Torbogen in Switzerland. It's a place where you meet your loved ones. like the Champs-Élysées in Paris, for example. For us, it's the Torbogen. The situation right now is that we are planning to extend the existing train station because we really run at our capacity limits. Many of us, we go to work to Zurich from here and we take the train, which is only 40 minutes. And in order to commute to Zurich, at the moment, the train has to do a big loop because Zurich is in this direction, and the easiest would be if we could just go straight over the water through the city center. And so they're planning to build 2 underground tunnels through the water, but that will mean that the Torbogen has to go, and this entire area will look very, very different. So I assume that like in 2 years' time from now, there will be a national vote where I also have the option to vote if I want to proceed with that project or not. So the next time when you come to Switzerland, I don't know if it will still look the same. So we have to enjoy it as long as it's still here. Now, do you see the sculpture up there that is like pointing forward with its hand? In Zurich, they have the same sculpture pointing towards Lucerne. It's a sculpture done by Richard Kiesling, and it was a gift at the time when we opened the tunnel, the Gotthard tunnel that leads from the north to the south. So this tunnel is very, very long. If you go by car, you're in the tunnel for 25 minutes. And that was really a big achievement at that time. And Lucerne was involved in the construction of this tunnel. And so we got this sculpture as a gift, but we didn't know where to put it. There was no space in Lucerne, and eventually it ended up on the archway, and it's still there until this day. Now, funny anecdote, below us is the parking garage of the train station, and during construction work, they forgot about the exhaust valves. What did they do? They used the arch, basically the 2 pillars on the sides, as exhaust valves, and still up to this day, all the emissions from the cars from down here, they go through the archway. And I personally believe that's why the sculptures are a bit blackish, you know, from all the fumes that come out. We're very inventive when it comes to finding solutions for these kind of things. Yeah. So we will continue. We will have to cross the street from here. Just be careful when you cross the streets. The traffic. And we will visit it shortly. But let me explain you a bit more about how Lucerne was formed back in the days. I have a map with me from the 12th century, and it shows us very well 17th century. Lucerne was formed in the 12th century, but this map is from the 17th century, and it shows us how medieval Lucerne looked like. The green highlighted circuit is our fortification, and this bridge and the water tower together were part of the fortification. In around 1850, the Benedictine order came to Lucerne, and they settled at which is nowadays the Hof Church. If you turn around, you can see 2 towers. They're part of the Hof Church. Once the bus moves, you will see the church as well. This is where the Benedictines settled in 1850. It took another 400 to 500 years for the city slowly to emerge. The core of the city center was over there, right next to the water. You know, for us, as I said, water was very important, especially the river. Access to the water was crucial at that time. Then we started to build a fortification. Why we needed a fortification? Our enemies were mainly the neighboring cantons. I'm talking of Zurich, I'm talking of the region of Zermatt. Like, we were not so friendly to each other at that time. Why? Because we were divided by religion. Lucerne up to this today is considered a Catholic canton. Zurich, for example, is Protestant. And so we always have these battles against each other. Not really with the neighboring countries such as France or Germany. We were too far away from them anyways, like we were in the Alps. So we had these battles against each other, and you will see throughout the tour that this had an impact on many things in Lucerne too. This fortification wall up here is still intact. And if you have time today or even tomorrow, I highly recommend to go up there. You can see two of the towers up there on the hill. If you look like through the Hotel des Alpes, where the Swiss flag is, a little bit on the left, there are two of the towers. So these towers, they're also open. You can go inside. You have a beautiful view over the city of Lucerne, and it's a nice walk to go up there. I will show you how to get there the best when we are closer to the old town. Now, before we go on the bridge, I will just do a quick stop right next to the stairs and talk a little bit more about the iconic tower that we call in German Wasserturm, water tower. And have you seen how clear the water is? We love to swim in Lake Lucerne and in the river. And there was a study a couple years ago that the quality of the water in the Swiss lakes is almost close to drinking quality. So even if you have a sip, nothing really would happen to you. And talking about water, whenever you see a fountain in Switzerland, it's drinking water. So you can always bring your bottle with you and just fill it up and drink from the fountains. It has to clearly say, do not drink, otherwise it's drinking water. Excuse me?
Do they allow boats in here very much?
In this area, no boats are allowed. Exactly, it's very clean. And in Lucerne, you would never find a jet ski. You would never really find too many boats on the water. It's very much regulated. You will see many sailing boats outside on a clear day, but not in this area. And that's the river I mentioned earlier that goes upstream north. So flows into the Rhine River after a while. And it's called the River Royce, like the Rolls Royce.
Any fish?
There are fish. We have pikes, sometimes big ones, like really big pike fish, and perch. And sometimes, but rarely, salmon that travels all the way from the Nordic countries here to Lake Lucerne. So let's do a stop here. Now, if we refer back to the map and look at the bridge, why do you think is this bridge so curvy? It starts over there and then it goes to the right and then more to the left. It's a very weird shape, and it was built in the mid of the 16th century. Why do you think somebody would build a bridge like that?
That's where the ground was.
Yeah. Could be also with the ground, right? The high points. Sometimes also hear the currents. Now the answer is very simple. The tower is older than the bridge itself. We don't even know why the tower was built in the first place. So when they built the bridge, they really wanted to connect the tower with the bridge. The bridge started at the church, which is called the St. Peter's Chapel. It's the white church over there, and that's why it's also called the Chapel Bridge. So St. Peter's Chapel, then got the Chapel Bridge, connected the water tower, and went all the way to another building further north. Now the bridge was shortened in the 1900s because of the land fillings that we did on both sides. The tower, what we know though, is that it was used as a torture chamber. The state treasury was stored in the tower, and there are writings that married couples in medieval times were sent in there when they had arguments or where they were fighting against each other. So imagine, like, first sort of marriage counseling in medieval times. Now I promise we don't do that anymore in the water tower. It's not even open to the public. It's the Artillery Club of Lucerne. It's sort of a Rotary Club, I think you say in English, who does the maintenance of the tower and holds their monthly meetings. But there is an animal that lives inside the water tower, and very soon from now it will return back to Lucerne. It's called, it's also here on the picture, the Alpine Swifts. Now the Alpine Swifts are very fascinating birds. We have the largest colony of them here in central Switzerland, and they live in the upper portion of the water tower. They stay up in the air for more than 200 days a year. They barely land because of their tiny feet. So they keep flying, whatever they need to sustain, they collect in the air. And then once, when they are ready to mingle, sort of, they come to Lucerne and then lay their eggs in the upper part of the water tower. And you can always recognize them by their sounds. They have a very high pitch and a wide belly. And when they sleep, one side of their brain stays awake and the other is asleep. Wow. Like I think sharks do as well. Yeah. So alpine swifts, very, very common here in Lucerne. Same on the tower. On the tower we have the wall swifts. And so if you like birds, Lucerne in general, this region is a very nice place to observe birds. Now the stork nest at the very top is only there for decoration, to say, because we didn't have storks for more than 100 years. This, oh, careful there. The area here has changed a lot. Like on the map that I showed you earlier, you can see that this side over here was mainly land, very swampy land. And you know, Lucerne has also gotten its name from the Latin term luteus. Luteus means swampy, wet, and so luteus became Lucerne, as we say in our dialect. Now let's go onto the bridge. We won't cross it today because we want to stay on this side, but we'll go close to the water tower, and then please pay attention to the triangular shaped paintings that you see just above the bridge. And now we are on the chapel bridge that was built in the mid of the 16th century. In August and July, when it's main season in Lucerne, we have up to 15,000 people that cross this bridge on a Saturday. So the bridge was part of the fortification, and you can see that when you compare the balustrade on both sides, because this side here, facing to the south, is higher than the right-hand side. Enemies were coming in from the south, from Lake Lucerne. Now, what made this bridge also famous are the paintings. The paintings that you see up here, they tell us a story. They were hung up later. We're talking from the 17th century, and the paintings were done by the local government at that time. In order to understand why they are up here in the first place, I have to refer back to these battles that we had against the cantons, whether to be Catholic or Protestant. Now, starting from the 15th century, it was a very chaotic time. Like, we struggled, even financial wise, it was very difficult. And we had an economic system that was largely based on the mercenary trade or the soldier trade. So that meant that Lucerne in particular recruited young boys, sometimes only 16, 14 years old, from the countryside, and they sold them to the French emperors, to the Italians, to the Germans, to serve as soldiers. And they were promised to receive a salary once they returned, but many of them, they never returned. That was a very cruel thing going on in Swiss history for a long time that many don't know. But these mercenary trades, who benefited out of them? They were mainly the city centers and Lucerne as well. So starting from 16th century, people wanted to stop doing that. There was a lot of opposition, and especially Zurich, and a gentleman from Zurich, he said, this cannot continue. Now, what did Lucerne do? The government of Lucerne at that time, they were thinking, okay, we have to do something about it. Why don't we hang up an educational program on the bridge that's mostly used by everyone every single day to go to church, to tell them how important is whatever we have done. So this painting cycle, it tells us important milestones of battles that we won, that Lucerne won, of the local patrons. They are connected to the story of Lucerne. So nowadays historians, they agree that was political propaganda, but nobody would dare to question it at that time. Now, and every painting, by the way, was sponsored by a wealthy family who had political power at that time. Their family crests are shown on the right and left hand side in the corners. Now, if you look further down, you see that many paintings are missing, and there is a sad reason to that. On 18 August 1993, there was a fire on the chapel bridge, and this photo went viral. What happened? Somebody around midnight, assumingly, smoked a cigarette on the bridge and discarded it, and at that time there were still boats underneath the bridge. It fell on the canopy of that boat and it lit up a fire instantly. And the fire was so devastating that basically the middle section was completely gone. So the next day it looked like this. So the portion of the bridge that we are standing on was rescued, as well as the other end. We prefer the water from the fountain at first, but yeah, the study showed that our water in the lakes and the rivers is very clear. And like when we go and hike, a thing that many families in Switzerland do, we would always fill up our water bottles from the tiny rivers in the mountains. 1666 until 1677. And maybe some of you know the Jesuits are known as very good teachers, and they were called around the same time when the paintings were painted to come to Lucerne to teach our boys and to open schools for the boys. And to be honest with you, there was also a political background for that, because the government really wanted to make sure that we remained Catholic, and they were successful. Lucerne, as I said, up to this day is a Catholic canton. We have Catholic holidays, and that sometimes means, for example, my other job is in Zurich, and so sometimes there is holidays here, and I don't have holiday in Zurich, or the school system is different in Zurich than it is here. And even when it comes to political decisions, when we have national vote, you can really tell the difference. It's very interesting how this remained for so long. Now, the Jesuit church today is not a parish church. It belongs to the city of Lucerne, so it's really open for everyone to visit. And I would say now we go inside, we see how many people there are. If it's not too busy, we can sit down, I can explain you a few things, and then I give you 5 minutes that you can explore on your own and take some pictures. Yes, it's so beautiful. You can take pictures, yes, but I just kindly ask you to remain in the back of the church since there is a mass going on. and the colors that you saw, they're all original. So this church was never really affected by any disasters that we had here in Lucerne. And it's dedicated to Francis Xavier. We also call it the Franz Xavier Kirche, because Francis Xavier, he was a Jesuit himself, and he traveled a lot. He went overseas. His body is buried in Goa in India today, and sometimes even like pilgrims, they do the pilgrimage from India to Lucerne here to see this church. And by the way, the altar that you saw and all the construction around, even though it looks like marble, it's not real marble. We had no marble at that time in Lucerne, so it's all made of stucco. And so the pillars, the big pillars that we saw in the front, they're basically made of a mixture of hay, then covered with plaster, another layer of that stucco, and then colors and beeswax on top to make it look shiny. And it's very hard these days to find skilled workers to preserve this beautiful church, and to still have the skills and knowledge how to do this. Yeah.